G'day, this is Blxz and welcome back to Buzz Aldrin's Space Program Manager bonus episode. So in this episode, what I'm essentially doing is going to run the entire set of remaining missions, so all the little space probes out to the planets, in 250% speed, so I'll cut it down a little bit. Now to begin with, I'm actually going to finish off the Apollo Type J, which is the Apollo mission with a rover. And we'll see how that goes. The components are not at particularly good reliability. They're about 87% for the rover, which is good enough. I send off here the Sun probe, and we're trying to finish that one off. It takes about a year and a half. It does take a year and a half, and it's got one more season left after this one. Now this one here is probably the most complicated mission in the entire game. There's so many different parts that have to come together. You've got it's quite a bit long loading as well, but so many parts that actually have to come together here. You've got a whole range of different boosters and things that need to be lifted off. You've got spacesuits, you've got the actual command service module, you've got the lander, and you've actually got the rover itself, which is one of the most difficult components to actually develop. Now, this one took me quite a lot of time to build up to, and thankfully, so far at least, there's been no more mishaps. We're actually using tried and true technology for most of it. So the Saturn V is one of our most reliable pieces of technology. The actual Apollo crewed things here are really good, although there is a bit of a mishap. The majority of the equipment is actually very, very reliable. So at least the opening part of this video was quite easy. Later on with the probes, I actually deal with a lot more unreliable technology and have a few problems to run into and solve. Although you are missing out on it this time because I'm playing through it, there actually are quite a lot of interesting audio sounds in the background that they play, and they are sort of different for every mission. They overlap a little bit. But the rovered one was quite nice, and I sort of had the idea of playing some of them for you, but I decided in the end it just would make the episode too long. So if you are interested, by all means, go out and buy the game. It's a wonderful game to play, one of my absolute favourites. If you're into sort of managing and organising, and then sitting back and letting other people do the work for you. But now that that's all done, we've got a bit of a lander. We've had a few errors pop up, there's another one right there. Had a few errors pop up, but for the most part, I've got enough money now that I can really just throw the Tiger teams at it, and that gives me a good solid 10% extra. There's a couple more errors popping up there, but that's likely to happen just from the sheer size of it. There's 31 steps in this entire mission with, I believe, 15 different flight controlling staff, 3 flight crew, and again all those different pieces of technology all working together and all of them having their checks. So even if they are at 90% or 100, even just off 100%, there's still going to be a pretty significant chance you're going to have a couple of failures. And I saw here the Soviets had actually launched a probe to Mars. They beat me there. I have not yet launched or not succeeded with an interplanetary probe yet. So I decided to speed up my program here. I don't want the Soviets to start beating me once they get a bit of a leg up, because all the probes are quite similar in a sense that they're just a probe, they just do different things. You do get a significant bonus to them, and I finished off my Sun probe there. You do get a significant bonus to the starting reliability to all of them. So what I start doing here is considering opening up and launching my Venus probe, is what I'm about to do here, just so that I can actually start ticking them off and beating them. I don't want the Soviets to beat me to Venus as well. I won't get to Mars for quite some time, just because I'm lagging so far behind. I do really want to at least get the drop on them with Venus. Now for the majority of these I will be viewing from actually watching the entire mission, the whole mission control thing. This particular one is only a one season mission, so I can do the whole thing at once, but a lot of the future ones are multiple seasons. The interesting thing here is that the probe here, what this probe's actually doing, once the errors stop, what this probe will actually be doing is it launches off at about step 10, I believe it is. It launches off a main probe a little bit earlier, and that little tiny momentum boost is actually enough to bring the larger probe part into the atmosphere a lot earlier than the others, who would come in a couple of hours later when the mini probes are launched. And that's the thing, the scale of distances that you're talking about here in regards to space travel are so mind-blowingly huge that we can't really fathom them. We can't really think of them here with our brains. But even a boost of a few kilometers per hour, really, or a few meters per second, as the case may be, would really make a huge difference in terms of arrival time. And so that allows, this has actually been put to good use by NASA over the years to organise some of their missions. Alrighty, so now that the Venus one's done, I'm just basically working through here, rearranging all my people, trying to balance out the projected reliability and getting the projected improvement per season. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to focus just yet. You can see here what I'm doing is checking the requirements to open up some of the missions. I had thought that the Venus probe would unlock Mercury, but it turns out that Mars is the requirement for every other non-Venus and non-Mars mission. So to get to Mercury, Jupiter or Saturn, I actually require a Mars probe. If I'd known that at the beginning, if I'd paid enough attention, I probably would have focused on the Mars one first, and quite possibly even have beat Soviets. But what this does highlight is the need to really get a move on and actually beat the Soviets before they lock down all the other planets and get that prestige. It was at this point that I decided the probes themselves are really going to take quite a significant length of time to actually prepare, and this is quite a difficult probe. I'm doing the highest level probe here, the Viking 1, and the Viking orbiter is a combined lander and orbiter. So I was beginning to think, well, what I might be better doing, see they've completed another orbiter, so the Soviets have done two now. So I was thinking, well, what I might be better off doing here is actually smashing out all the earlier probes. If they've got sort of a 75% beginning reliability chance, as you can see there, just because of the success of my Venus and Sun probe, what I'd be able to do is actually just take a gamble. If I fail, then I fail. But if I succeed, I'd be able to tick off this Mars mission quite easily. As you can see already, a couple of errors. Something to be expected when you've got untested pieces of technology. 75% is pretty low. Admittedly, in the launch phase, the rocket plays the lion's share of the actual reliability testing. So you can see there I'm nearly at 98%. And you can see here this is a multi-season mission. So at point 7 we do a transplantary injection, and then we are essentially ended for the turn. We have to come back next turn to continue on. And these will get more and more common as we go into the outer planets. And a bit of a mistake, but I reckon that they'll be able to fix it, they'll be able to solve it. And unfortunately I was wrong. I threw in quite a lot of money there, and the probe, it says here the camera failed, and so they couldn't get their scans. So essentially the probe did fly around, there was just no record of it. So, like any good NASA person, I just load it up and fire the rocket again. But, I mean, at this point we've got nearly $500,000 space dollars or space credits, so we've got so much money here. We're getting more than almost 60,000 additional credits per turn, that we've got so much extra money we can just hurl mission after mission. If I could, I would have opened up to Jupiter and the other outer planet ones, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury. and just fired them all off, but I was actually waiting for this Mars one to finish. So the bottleneck here really is completing the minimum requirements. So here what I'm doing, I'm actually launching up every single rocket all at once and loading the entire lot. I send out all 3 missions at once, hoping that at least one of them will get through. Now, every single one of these launches is going to be identical here. It's going to be the 1 to 7 steps. I actually watch from here though, simply because the reliability is so low for all of these pieces that I'm going to need to step in and use the Tiger team to save them at least a few times. Is that at least what I was assuming? And if you don't watch it from mission control, you are unable to step in and save it. So you have a higher failure rate in this kind of instances. In this particular case I was safe, I didn't need to worry about that. So again, there's our Saturn V, a very, very reliable piece of equipment. Although you can see here, it's appearing to be at about 88% reliability. And that again is because of the probe on top. The actual guidance system is not particularly good. Once we get the actual launch underway though, again reliability does jump up because it's more demanding on the rocket itself, which is a very reliable piece of equipment. I think we've hit, technically to call it 100%, but there is always a chance of failure in this game with any piece of equipment at any time. And there we go, transplanetary injection completed. And now for our third one, the Viking orbiter. Now this particular one actually suffers a negative 5% to every single check because we have not put an orbiter around Mars just yet. We've got one on the way, but we haven't actually succeeded. So being a more complicated mission, this one does suffer a negative due to not having actually completed the requirements beforehand. But nothing I can throw a bit of money at. Of course, in this particular instance, I have failed again, which is unfortunate. It's 2 failures to Mars. In this instance, the little flavor text calls it a mechanical error that stopped it from decoupling. So they couldn't get rid of the rocket. The rocket was attached to it and it never separated properly. But with all that money I've got, I just throw another mission into the works and hope for the best next time. So this is our Mars our Mars flyby craft. It's come in and appears to have gone by very smoothly. That is a nice chunk of prestige. Although at this point it really doesn't matter. I have more prestige than even the highest level of the game will require. Coming in here we have our Mars orbiter. So this one's doing something similar, but it's actually going to be using its engines to slow down and bring ourselves into orbit around Mars. And from there it'll actually orbit for 1 more season, and if it continues to operate it will give us even more prestige. So this is like a double prestige. We get prestige from just getting in orbit, and then we'll get additional prestige from remaining in orbit and collecting more mapping data. Here we go again, launching our Viking 1 lander and probe. By this point I'd done quite a few launches in real time. I didn't get to watch it at top speed like you guys are. I was starting to get a little frustrated doing the same thing over and over again. But it appears to have all gone to plan. Well, almost. But there we go, a successful launch. So with that, the completion of our orbit, our flyby, we now have unlocked all the other planets. So I was just checking my requirements for prestige. I can see that I'm well ahead. So from here, what I'm going to be doing is opening up all of the additional mission got Pioneer 11. I believe Pioneer, was it 12 was the Saturn one? I can't remember. Oh no, sorry, Pioneer 11 was the Saturn flyby. The Jupiter one was Pioneer 10. Here we go, I should read what's on screen rather than try and remember. And the Mercury one, I believe, is Mariner. It would be Mariner 10, I think. Yep, there we go, Mariner 10. So open up Mariner 10 and prepare to launch this one as well. So that's all three of them ready for launch on the next mission. Again, they're very unreliable pieces, and they're going to be going for quite a lot of checks. They're going to be doing multi-season checks here. But with these probes, because each check is each season really, a lot of them only require 1 or 2 checks. It's actually a very easy way, much like the Sun probe, it's a very easy way to actually build up reliability. So even if you do fail at the end, the previous couple of seasons that have succeeded will actually give you quite a good reliability boost. So there we go, we've finished our orbiter before, and now we have here the Viking is approaching. So Viking is going to go into orbit, and it's going to drop down the Viking 1 lander at the same time. So this is another mission where if we succeed here, we'll get a big chunk of prestige, but we will also get a good solid prestige boost and badge boost if we can do it one more season after that. So they have to actually remain active on the surface for 2 seasons. And that again just comes down to a reliability check. So here we go, provided everything goes to plan, we will have 3 more launches. So this will be our Saturn launch, our Pioneer 11. For some reason, in this timeline, it's coming before Pioneer 10. But not to worry, it's not a huge issue, they'll be going at the same time. Now the Pioneer 11, the actual mission profile, how it worked was it did a slingshot by Jupiter. So it actually went out towards Jupiter. And it used the gravity of Jupiter to actually flick it around in a different angle and increase its velocity and send it up much higher above the Sun, where it managed to reach Saturn. It took a long time. It's not like going in a straight line. What you're doing is just going in bigger and bigger circles until you eventually reach out to the orbit of Saturn. Again, for those of you who've played Kerbal Space Program or have any even basic understanding of orbital physics, you will know what I'm trying to get at here. It can be a difficult thing to explain to people who don't quite understand how things in space work. But it all just basically involves circles. If you're within a gravity well, you'll be going around in circles a lot of the time. And it looks like my Jupiter probe has been successful. That'll take 6 seasons to complete the mission. The Mercury one, we'll actually be doing a Venus flyby. So much like the Saturn probe doing a Jupiter flyby, here we'll be using Venus to flick us around towards the orbit of Mercury. The actual launch itself goes pretty much without any hitches. Well, except for that one. Again, I have some good people working on this, so the success rate was quite high. Did have one problem with some of the staff. I was actually sort of scraping the bottom of the barrel here, so some of my flight controls were not as good as they could be for the Mercury mission. But again, it's not really a huge concern for me. I do send them all in to retrain at a later date. And this here is part 2 of the Viking lander. So they've already landed, and provided they keep working, so it's just a single equipment check each time, with only the few of the flight directors being used. And there we go. Both checks passed. So that is Viking completed, and we have the study of the Martian soil surface. Now there's going to be a lot of these individual checks like this, just flying past, doing a single check. 21 missions it's going to be doing something, or it's going to be doing that for 19 parts. The remaining 2 will be the Jupiter transit and the actual Saturn approach and transit. You can see this actually has given me quite a big chunk in reliability. Here though we have our Mercury probe. So the transit and orbits, as you can see in that little picture down the bottom, you can see sort of the faint lines of where the orbits are going. And we are crossing over the orbits. In reality they are much, much further away. These are not drawn to scale. You'd struggle to even see either planet as anything more than a star from the surface of one or the other. Much like from here on Earth, you can actually see Venus is the brightest object in the night sky, other than the Moon. And it's what they call the morning or the evening star. And you can tell planets in the Earth's atmosphere, if you look at the stars, planets will not be flickering. So because they're closer, and they have generally a brighter reflection, they will not flicker like stars do. Or twinkle, I guess is the word you'd call. Flicker's a bit quicker. They don't twinkle like stars do. So that's generally how you can find planets down the night sky. So what I was doing here was going through and checking to making sure exactly which of the mission seasons would be the important ones. So I do spot checks most of them, and figure out that mission season 6 and 21 were the important ones for the Saturn probe, and obviously mission season 6 for the Jupiter probe. So all the other ones being quite simple checks, I actually begin to skip them from now on. So you'll see me for the first time actually skipping right to the outcome rather than going through mission control, putting you guys through an extra 15 seconds or so each tick. And there we go, skip to outcome. You'll notice as well that I have a lot of unemployed or unused scientists and flight controllers, flight directors down the bottom who are not really doing anything. This does come and bite me in the ass shortly, where I receive I think it was a 20,000 or 22,000 prestige hit because one of them was complaining to the media. And if you just think about the scale of that, it's only about 10% of my actual prestige, which is pretty big, and not all that bad. But when you actually think of what that value is, that completely undoes the prestige gained in the first moon landing. So I can't imagine what they went to the media about, saying everyone's sitting there and not working very hard. But that's somehow undone all the goodwill gained by one of our moon landings. You can see there that the Russians are doing more probes. They've succeeded with their Venus one, but they are falling a bit behind. I'm already well on my way for every single mission, so they're not going to catch up at this point. They can't. Their rockets can't go quicker than mine can. In this particular instance with the Saturn probe, I did click the wrong button. I'm so used to monitoring from mission control that I did just accidentally watch. Pretty useless thing. But there we go, our Jupiter probe keeps going. And there we go, that's our 20,000 prestige being hit. It was at that point I realised, I had a look at their morale and realised that their morale really had been dropping every season. I didn't think it was too bad, but if they're going to keep doing those hits to me, I decide to just stick every single person in training. Now this will take me about a minute or two, so you may want to speed up YouTube into 2 times to flick through this. Found it to be a thoroughly boring process at my normal speed, especially because I wasn't training anyone for any particular use later. There was nothing I was going to get out of it other than just try and protect my prestige. So the aim here really was to find their lowest skill and tell them to just train that all the way up to 100%, 98%, which will take them well beyond the end of the game before they actually report back to me. That's all my scientists done. Should I ever need a rocket person, I will have a lot of them ready. And here I smash out everyone on their lowest skill. Or give or take their lowest skill. I wasn't trying to be exact, I was just being quick. There we go, just a few more to go. Some familiar faces here, people who've done a lot of good for the program. Marlene Schofield, Mary Brooks, Nancy Ritchie have all been very important people over the years. Some of them getting old as well. There's still no personnel actually approaching retirement age, despite having completed the game and gone well beyond it. So I don't know exactly why that was factored into the game. I do believe if you start very early on and get a very old person, they will approach retirement age, but I've not actually seen anyone retire yet. So we've got here more skipping. The Soviets have done another Venus lander, so they're completing all the Venus missions, probably knowing they can't catch up to us any other way. And there we go, another orbiter and lander. So they've done all 3 Venus missions now. Alrighty, here we go. This is the second last. I again was mistaken and watched the second last one just to make sure there was nothing that was missed. No Saturn approach. And here we go, we're coming in for our final approach. We're going to shoot past Saturn. An absolute beautiful imagery. And off into the abyss, never to be seen again. And so that has actually brought me to the end here. I have completed every single achievement in the entire game. I've gone to every planet, I've gone to the stars. I haven't done every single mission or every single sub-part of every mission. Simply because a lot of them are just repetitive. I'm going through here making sure that I've done every single planet at least once. I've done the moon, I've done all the Earth probes, I've done the what they call the space planes, and I've done all the 1, 2 and 3 man crafts. I've done all 3 Mars ones, actually fully completed Mars. I've done every mission there, which is a bit of fun. I've done Jupiter and I've done Saturn. So I've been Blxz, this has been Buzz Aldrin's Space Program Manager. Make sure to check out the game if you are interested in this. Absolute blast to play, and different tactics and techniques you can try. But make sure to join me and check out some of my other LPs on the channel, and like and subscribe if you have indeed liked the content. See you later.